everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Lucy.
Hello, I'm Sanne.
And I'm so happy to be filming with Sanne today because Sanne's channel is one that I've always loved watching, so it's really fun to film with you today.
You're in the Sanne location.
I am. Sanne's filming background, which is amazing. So this video is going to be all about publishing. So as we both have a background in publishing as well as having channels, it just kind of made sense to do a video on what we've both learned from having, having YouTube channels and working in publishing, and things like that, and any advice for you who have blogs or YouTube channels and are wanting to get into the industry, any tips and things like that. First thing, what attracted you to publishing in the first place?
Okay, so I knew that I wanted to work in publishing just because I was like, I love books. Which I think most people
do start like that, yeah.
And I had no clue what publishing entailed, I didn't know what roles there were, and I hadn't really looked into it, and I feel like there aren't a lot, unless you do work experience, there aren't that many sources to figure out what the hell kind of jobs do you have?
Because I guess most people just think editorial. I always get the question, oh, so do you edit books? And I'm like, no, not quite.
Yeah, so I think it was that, and then when I moved to London, I was like, okay, this was specifically to find a job in publishing, and then I actually started looking into it a bit more.
Yeah. I think in terms of what attracted me to publishing, so I did an English degree, standard,
Me too,
I think.
me too.
And I was like, I really wanted work with books. So it's either between being a lecturer or going into academia or publishing. So I chose the less strenuous route and went into publishing. So
I like being a book pusher. So I was going to either be a bookseller, a librarian, or work in publishing.
Yeah.
I just want to push books onto people.
So in terms of your YouTube channel, do you feel that having a channel and a presence on YouTube and social media has helped you get into publishing?
Yes, because all the work I do now is social media related and video production and Photoshop stuff and things like that, and I learned all of that from doing YouTube.
Yeah.
So they're all sort of self-taught skills over the years, and so I think that was I could have done a media degree.
Yeah. And
then learned it that way, but instead I studied publishing and then didn't really realize I wanted to do graphic design stuff and video editing until I started doing it, and I was like, this is great, I like this a lot.
Exactly. And I think it always, it's interesting because I always get, I got asked about it in my first job interview, and I think it's interesting to employers that you've got this other side. It shows motivation and
also community building, knowing how to talk to people online, how to get people excited about things, which is a huge part of our jobs, how to get people to be interested in, tell a story, and I think that's quite, it shows it, instead of you saying in your cover letter, I'm really good at this and this, you just go I did it, look.
Yeah, they can look you up, which is quite scary because a lot of the times they kind of have looked you up before the interview, so it is a bit kind of well, they know what to expect. They can recognize me from the interview room, but
yeah, it's rare to be able, if you're a graphic designer, you can go, here's my work, but if there's other stuff you do and you don't have any experience running a campaign or things like that, then this is good sort of proof instead.
So what tips would you give for people who have a blog or a YouTube channel or a successful Twitter or Instagram account and want to get into publishing?
Really think about how you phrase it, really think about how you put this on your CV. And so I think if you're writing down skills, things like community building, content creation, online engagement, those are the kinds of terms you want to use. And so you can obviously use words like YouTuber and blogger and things like that, but really talk about the skills you have in video production and that kind of stuff. And also, I don't know how people feel about this, but I think if you are already going to an interview, having a little stats sheet, maybe with some screenshots of things you've done before, because you can't really bring in a laptop always. And so if they ask what channel, you're actually, here's some things I've done. And I think that can be quite useful, talk about how many followers you have, or maybe you did a really cool video series, or you did something exciting with an author online. And that I think would be good to sort of put in a nice PDF and print out and take with you.
Definitely. And I think publishers are always interested, for example, if you've worked with another publisher, because it kind of shows that you're able to liaise with people in the industry, and you're aware in certain terms what the role of a publicist is or a marketer, and you're kind of in that world.
This is not a thing that always works, but I think just engaging with publishers online,
yes,
it's not in a sort of like, oh yes, I love you kind of way, but in a just like joining in with conversation.
Yeah,
and
no,
if
that's
you've read
really
a book
important.
by them that you like, talk to them, and then I think that is just quite helpful. And it's not, you know, the social media person that's running that account is not going to be the one that's interviewing you.
No.
But I think there's no harm in it, really.
But they might also be, you know, because lots of different people in a publishing house will have access to their community Twitter. So, you know, I think engaging with that and following their social media accounts also gives you a greater understanding of the publishing house in general.
And what kind of stuff they publish.
Yeah.
So basically, for my job at Hotkey, I had actually emailed them on sort of a whim as the first publisher I ever emailed.
Oh, wow.
Asking for a review copy and sort of going, oh, I don't know if you work with YouTubers, but I would love some review copies. And I did a review and then tweeted it at them, and they shared it. And it turns out that when I applied for the job, they remembered me from that. And so that was a good example of, I had no ulterior motives doing that.
Exactly.
It meant that they did have sort of an idea of like who I was. Which
I think it also helps in terms of, say you get that interview and you're preparing for an interview. I've always looked at a company's Twitter page, because it kind of shows what their big titles are, what they're trying to push, if there's any campaigns they've got going. Yeah, exactly. And you kind of understand their style.
I think people are quite impressed and find it quite important. Like in an interview, they might go like, so what campaign have you seen of ours that you really liked?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like obviously for publicity it's more of a thing than social media,
yeah.
But yeah, I think that's quite important. The last question is, what can you do about your social media presence online when it comes to like it helping you out, or what do you need to be careful for about like what could hold you back?
Never get too personal on social media. I know it's always good to share your personality, but I think your personality and your personal life is a different thing.
Yeah.
So don't get too kind of, I'm always a bit kind of cautious to really kind of put every single thought and feeling on my social media.
Yeah, if I'm very upset or sad, that is the time to put the phone away for me at least. And I feel like some people feel differently about it. Some people have like sort of secret Twitter names, or like make it so their full name isn't on it. I think for social media publicity related jobs, it is good to have a Twitter account that can be easily found. Even if that's one that is not super, like it's not your personal one, you can still have one as a sort of like, this is what I'll use to tweet some like book articles, or when I've read a book I want to talk about, or when, you know, that kind of stuff. What would you say are things like stay away from?
I think stay away from drunk tweets.
Drunk tweets, no drunk tweets. I feel like you can get away with one or two
you
drunk
can get
tweets.
away with, if they're funny, yes. Like if they're like so personal that it's weird, no. I would also stay away from getting involved in conversations that could be very, very controversial.
I think with things like that, it's difficult. I would say don't get into any arguments with authors.
Oh yeah, that's
probably not a good one to do. Or like really scathing reviews of books. You know, just like, I'm not saying everything should be entirely neutral, but just think about like if you had to print out your timeline and hand it to your employer with your CV, would you be okay with that? In terms of what to tweet and what not to tweet, somebody said if you would not feel comfortable reading that tweet in a room full of people, don't tweet it. Yeah, that's pretty solid.
Pretty good. So everyone, I hope that was somewhat helpful. If you have any questions, please do either tweet us or you can drop comments down below. And also, like, if you are applying for a job in publishing, A, best of luck, but B, don't be afraid to just keep applying for jobs. Don't get downhearted if it's not going well.
I always say like the first 10 cover letters you write are probably pretty bad.
Oh yeah.
Looking back, you're like, yeah, that wasn't great. It's fine. Just keep doing them and you'll get better. Like you have to write all the crap ones
to get
to
the
good
gems.
ones.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, thank you, Sanne, for joining me with all your publishing wisdom and YouTube wisdom, which is always a good thing.
I feel like a YouTube senior.
And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And I will see you in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!
Bye!